If you're looking to give the Huntress a go and want to be able to just throw a bunch of projectiles, be infused with abilities that will allow you to explode enemies, have living lightning, and as you can see with mobs like this, decimate them with 1 or 2 hits, taking out the whole mob, as well as building up rage when you need to go for your melee, then do I have the starter Huntress build for you. So let's check it out. Okay, let's start with our passive tree, and we start with our ascendancy, which is the Amazon. Now the reason I've gone for the Amazon is twofold. We want that elemental damage, so for this one, the first 2 points we are putting into elemental damage, leading into elemental surge. So the whole point of this will be when we consume charges, whether it's power, endurance or frenzy, we can gain that to then trigger cold fire or lightning surges. And as we take this through, we will take the more elemental damage leading into surging avatar. However, the other aspect of this we want to take is the leech life and the mystic harvest. Leech life recovers based on your elemental damage as well as physical damage. There's also other awesome abilities such as the evasion rating going up and all sorts. So this is really the whole key part of this. Now when it comes to the skill tree, we are starting with the attack damage. We're going to go south for more attack damage, and then north for 8% increased attack damage. Follow this along for another 8%, and then on your 5th skill point, Primal Instinct. 8% increased attack speed, 6% increased area of effect, plus 10 to dexterity. Following the top path, or I should say, I guess, the top path as you go along to the right, and we want to pick up melee and projectile damage for a 10% increase to both. This will leak into Stalk and Leap. 30% increase in melee damage if you do a projectile attack in the past 8 seconds, and 30% projectile damage if you do a melee hit in the past 8 seconds. Meaning it's a nice way of alternating your skills here. We're going to go along the path again for a 10% increase melee and projectile damage. Pick up another one of these 10% increases to both melee and projectile, and that will lead you into your first sort of stat node. Now for these nodes, put in whatever you need based for using equipment. So for example, I needed intelligence because I needed some intelligence to use equipment, so make sure you put intelligence in here. If you need strength or dex, work it vice versa. Following the south path, we're going to take this node here for another stat increase, and along for one more stat increase. And then from here, we're going to go along the path of this little curvy one, as you can see here, and we're going to pick up a 2% increased attack speed and 5% increased accuracy. Attack speed is key. The quicker you attack, the quicker you pump damage out. We're going to follow these nodes around for another 2 and 5%, for another 2 and 5% with the third node, and then into the center for precision salvo. 8% increased projectile speed, 6% increased attack speed, and a 12% increased accuracy rating. Huge buffs all around. Come back to the main path, we're going to follow the node along for a 5 to dex. Follow this node along to pick up the jewel socket. Unfortunately, I'm yet to find a good jewel for this build, but once you do, pop it in here. Go for anything that will do elemental damage, lightning damage, fire damage, add your dexterity, projectile speed, something like that. Throw the path here, and then from here, there are 2 sort of branching paths as you can see. We're going to go through the top one first, and pick up projectiles, deal 15% increased damage with hits against enemies further than 6 meters away. We're going to pick up another one of these nodes as we go along, and then finally Death from Afar. Projectiles have 25% increased critical hit chance against enemies further than 6 meters, and deal 25% increased damage with hits against enemies further than 6 meters. So we boosted our damage with our spear and our crit chance. Once you've got this filled in, come to the other node, and we're going to pick up the projectile damage of 15% with hits against enemies within 2 meters. Pick up another 15% increased damage with hits against enemies within 2 meters into Stand and Deliver. Projectiles will have 40% increased critical damage bonus against enemies within 2 meters, and will deal 25% increased damage with hits against enemies within 2 meters. So now that we've got both of these projectiles locked in, we're going to go back to our main path and follow this along, picking up the stat node here. Come to the end to pick up the next stat node, and then we're going to go south, picking up this stat node, into this stat node, and then to the right, where we pick up our spear damage. It's 10% increased damage with spears. We're going to follow this up for another 10% increased damage with spears, up for another 10%, and this then will lead us into Focused Thrust. 75% increased melee damage with spears while surrounded, 40% increased projectile damage with spears while there are no enemies within 3 meters. That pairs very nicely with our 25% increase on enemies 6 meters away. We're going to go up from here for spear attack speed, for 3% increased attack speed, and we're going to follow the bottom right hand path first. Pick up another 3% increased attack speed into Roll and Strike. 25% increased damage with spears and a 10% increased attack speed with spears. Two big ways to increase your DPS. From there come north the spear accuracy, 10% increase. And then along the top left part for the precision point, 25% increased damage with spears and a 25% increased accuracy rating with spears. And then round at the top of this with another 3% increased attack speed. Okay, so we come to our skills. You'll see the first one we have is Elemental Surge. Grant your weapon surges. Non-melee projectile attacks with that weapon consume surges to cause projectiles fired to explode at the end of their flight. Awesome way of boosting up your lightning spear and stuff. We got this from being the Ascendancy. There's also Parry, which I never look at. And then Spear Throw. So with our Spear Throw, if we check out our sockets, currently I am using Multi-Shot 1. So we now throw 3 projectiles instead of just 1. They do deal 35% less damage and have 20% less skill speed, but the damage output from being 3 of them is way higher in my opinion. We're also using Spear Stab, and for this I've put Rage on here. So support skills grant 3 Rage on a melee hit. Again, while we're surrounded we have 60% increased damage anyway, but now with Rage we can really boost this up further. And we're going to do this with Rapid Attacks for 15% increased attack speed, so we get those Rage charges even quicker. I have been using Whirling Slash, but this is something I've dropped off from using very, very quickly, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. Very early game, very useful though. Explosive Spear, I love using this. I do need to buff it up a little bit and put some gems on it, but currently popping this on the floor and Storm Lance works a treat. Explosive Spear followed by a Storm Lance and then throwing your Lightning Spear is a huge amount of DPS early game. Lightning Spear, which is one of the key abilities of this build. As you can see, we have it at level 9. Converts 8% of physical damage to lightning damage, 100% more chance to shock. Projectiles can split if they hit terrain. And if we look at our support gem so far, Lightning Attunement. So we gain 25% damage as extra lightning damage, and we deal 50% less cold and fire, which is fine. And Living Lightning. Living Lightning is awesome because you throw your spear and you'll get these little minions, like these little lightning darts that count as minions that will just pop up and essentially they'll chase down enemies and hit them. Awesome ability to have. I think it makes using lightning so much better. We're using Storm Lance like I said, and essentially you just throw this at the ground and it zaps any enemies nearby. And on this I've also put Living Lightning to get 2 sets of minions. Now you might be thinking, how does that work? Well, if I show you, we throw down our lance there, and then we need to hit an enemy, never mind. Let's go find an enemy quick. So if you look on the left hand side, we have 1 Living Lightning from our lance. So there you go, if I throw this down, but then if I throw these, you'll see we have 2 stacks of Living Lightning going. And if you keep holding your Lightning Spear, they'll just keep going and not give up, as you can see. We're also using Primal Strikes. Now again, I don't use this too much. It does work very well sometimes, but I find using the actual Spear Stab just a bit better currently. Okay, let's look at our equipment, and as I said during the duels section, it's the same here. Things I would look at would be attack speed, lightning damage, crit chance, physical damage, and life regen, something like that. So the spear here, you can see I have a gem on it of 1 to 10 lightning damage. I also get an 11% increased melee strike range with this weapon. You'll see a 73% increased physical damage, adds 4 to 10 physical damage, 1 to 26 lightning damage, increased accuracy, 5% attack speed. Looking at the ring fire resistance, you can swap this out. So far I've not really found any good rings for this build to be honest, but I just use this for bosses. When it comes to armor, as you can see, plus 18 in total to strength, awesome for how can you use bigger equipment, 11 to maximum life, always helpful, and life regen. For a helmet, as you can see here, more life regen and maximum mana because you will need that for your lightning. For an amulet, plus 15 to strength again, allowing us to wear the better armors. For the ring here, 1 to 3 physical damage to attacks, 6% increased lightning damage, and 1.7 life regen. On the shield here, again more fire resistance. I've been switching this out just on the enemies I'm fighting, based on what I know their attacks do. For boots, as you can see, more evasion and life regen. For the belt, 20% increased life recovery from flasks is always useful. And then for the gloves here, as you can see, more strength, more maximum life, plus 1 level to all melee skills, 6% increased attack speed, and plus 7 to dex. So some awesome things on these braces. So that is the build in general. It's all about using your elemental attacks, building up your rage if you need to for those melee strikes. So if we go find an enemy here, we'll get that rage going. You can see we're currently on 6 rage. Hunt down these enemies, and at this point we start just throwing out our weapon attacks. We throw everything down here, and you'll see we just get lots of living lightning. We can decimate a bunch of stuff. If we want to, we can just do our normal spear throws, like this. But the best bet really is to do your living lightning, throwing out your lightning spear, using as much stuff as possible. We get this going. So we've got the 2 enemies, so I throw down my stuff like that, get the explosions, and overall just decimate things through your elemental damage. So I hope you have enjoyed this build for Path of Exile 2, and hopefully it makes the Huntress a little bit more useful for you. If it has, let me know in the comments what you think about the build, what you'd change, where you'd take it next, all that fun stuff. If you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel for more. I've got more guides too. Path of Exile, Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age, Oblivion, Expedition 33, Elden Ring, Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers, basically all the amazing RPGs you could ever need. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.